Our first Bible reading is from Ezra chapter 8, verse 31 to chapter 9, verse 4, the return to Jerusalem. It was on the 12th day of the first month that we left the Ahava Canal to go to Jerusalem. Our God was with us and protected us from enemy attacks and from ambush as we travelled. When we reached Jerusalem, we rested for 3 days. Then on the fourth day, we went to the temple, weighed the silver, the gold, and the utensils, and handed them over to Merimoth the priest, son of Uriah. With him were Eleazar, son of Phinehas, and 2 Levites, Jozabad, son of Jeshua, and Noadiah, son of Binui. Everything was counted and weighed, and a complete record was made at the same time. All those who had returned from exile then brought offerings to be burnt as sacrifices to the God of Israel. They offered 12 bulls for all Israel, 96 rams, and 77 lambs. They also offered 12 goats to purify themselves from sin. All these animals were burnt as sacrifices to the Lord. They also took the document the emperor had given them and gave it to the governors and officials of the province of West Euphrates, who then gave their support to the people and the temple worship. After all this had been done, some of the leaders of the people of Israel came and told me that the people, the priests, and the Levites had not kept themselves separate from the people in the neighbouring countries of Ammon, Moab, and Egypt, or from the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, and Amorites. They were doing the same disgusting things that those people did. Jewish men were marrying foreign women, and so God's holy people had become contaminated. The leaders and officials were the chief offenders. When I heard this, I tore my clothes in despair, tore my hair and my beard, and sat down crushed with grief. I sat there grieving until the time for the evening sacrifice to be offered, and people began to gather around me, all those who were frightened because of what the God of Israel had said about the sins of those who had returned from exile. Our second passage is from the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 4 to 11. In Ezra, we have read through long lists in which all those who helped rebuild the temple are recorded. In this passage, we have a long list of the gifts God gives his people for the rebuilding of his church. Verse 4. There are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit gives them. There are different ways of serving, but the same Lord is served. There are different abilities to perform service, but the same God gives ability to all for their particular service. The Spirit's presence is shown in some way in each person for the good of all. The Spirit gives one person a message full of wisdom, while to another person the same Spirit gives a message full of knowledge. One and the same Spirit gives faith to one person, while to another person he gives the power to heal. The Spirit gives one person the power to work miracles, to another the gift of speaking God's message, and yet to another the ability to tell the difference between gifts that come from the Spirit and those that do not. To one person he gives the ability to speak in strange tongues, and to another he gives the ability to explain what is said. But it is one and the same Spirit who does all this. As he wishes, he gives a different gift to each person. We thank God for his word.